Truma's parak Ches Mishnah Aleph. This parak is going to discuss who can eat truma. Now we know that a kohen can eat truma, but the question is, which family members of the kohen can eat truma? The avodim of a kohen can eat truma, and the like. We shall see. Zok the Mishnah, a woman who is married to a kohen was eating truma. And people came to her and said, your husband died at Gershech, or your husband divorced you, so she's no longer married to a kohen. She cannot eat truma anymore. Her father's not a kohen, so she's not allowed to eat truma. So she's only allowed to eat truma because she was married to a kohen. But now that she's no longer married to a kohen, so she can no longer eat truma. Similarly, an Eved Kanani that was eating truma, and people came to him and said, your master died and you were inherited by Yisrael. When a slave's owner dies, his slave automatically passes down the Yerusha. It automatically goes Yerusha to the Yarshim. If a kohen owns avodim, his sons who are also kehanim will be Yerush the slaves. The Mishnah, however, refers to a case where the kohen's Yarshim were not a kohen. For example, if he had no sons and his daughter who was married to a Yisrael inherited him, including his avodim. So, Bova Amrulai Meis Rabach, Machach li Yisrael, or your master sold you to Yisrael in Asach B'matana, or he gave you to a Yisrael as a gift, or he freed you. In all these cases, the slave no longer belongs to a kohen and thus may not eat truma. Similarly, if a kohen was eating truma and it became known that he was the son of a grusha, a divorced woman, or a son of a chalutza, who is a woman who performed chalitza, and the halacha is that when a married man dies without children, the almana must marry one of his brothers. This marriage is known as yibum. She can be released from the chiyuv by the ceremony of chalitza, which is the removal of the shoe. A kohen may not marry a woman who performed chalitza. If he marries such a woman, their child is a cholol and may not eat truma or serve in the Beis Hamikdash. In our case, a kohen found out that his mother did chalitza before marrying his father, and he is thus disqualified as a kohen. So, in all of the above cases, Rabbi Lezer mechayev keren b'chaimish. Rabbi Lezer obligates the woman, slave, or the disqualified kohen to pay a keren and the chaimish, the value of the truma that ate the extra fifth, just like any non-kohen who eats truma by mistake. Rabbi Shua says that they don't have to pay anything. Now, why don't they have to pay anything? So Rabbi Shua's halacha, Rabbi Shua's psak, is limited to a specific case. In the morning of Erev Pesach, if the Isha, the Eved, or the Chalal kohen, the Ben Grusha Ben Chalutz, is eating chametz, that's truma. Since they have to finish before the Zman Biur, they're in a rush and they didn't verify that they're still mutter to eat truma. So in this case, they're not mechuyev and they're treated as a non-kohen who eats truma for reasons that are beyond his control. Such a person is not required to pay anything. However, if the Isha, Eved, or kohen was eating truma on any other day, Rabbi Shua agrees that they are mechuyev and they must pay the chaimish as well. A kohen was standing and bringing a carbon on the mizbeach. Then it became known that his mother was a divorced woman, or he was the son of a chalutza, and he's therefore also to serve in the Beis Hamikdash. Rabbi Lezer says, "All the karbanos that he ever brought on the mizbeach are pasul, because he was not a good kohen, and people would need to bring, if anyone's still mechuyev in a carbon. If anybody brought a carbon, they would have to rebring it. Rabbi Shua says that all the carbonos are good. Rabbi Shua learns that from a pasuk that avodah that was performed by a chalal is valid even if he didn't know at the time that he was puzzled. However, if a kohen was serving in the Beis Hamikdash and it became known that he was a balmum that disqualifies him from avodah, so everyone agrees avodah sepsula. Everyone agrees that he is puzzled because there's no pasuk that teaches us. Rabbi Shua Mela by Chalal, Rabbi Shua had a pasuk to teach us that a avodah of a Chalal is good. But when it comes to Balmum, there's no such pasuk that can teach us that avodah that's performed by a kohen with the mum is good. So therefore, his avodah is pasul. Mishnah Beis. V'kulam shahoisa truma b'seich piyam. And all of them, whether it's a woman who is married to a kohen, or the slave of a kohen, Shahaisa truma b'seich piyam, who had truma in their mouth when they became disqualified to eat truma. Rabbi Lezer ema yivlu. Rabbi Lezer said they should swallow the truma that's in their mouth. Since they put it in their mouth beheter, so they may swallow it. Rabbi Shua ema yiflaitu. Rabbi Shua says they must spit it out since it's also for them to eat truma. Saying bechlal is interesting. If a person is eating supper and somebody tells them, oh, by the way, that was streif, or it was basa b'chalav, or it was chalev, or whatever it is. It's a question of why it would be any different. Maybe Taka would be the same. Amar Leidim, Mesa, if the truma was in a kohen's mouth and people said to him, you became tameh after you put the truma in your mouth, minidmis truma, or they said the truma became tameh after you put it in your mouth. Rabbi Lezer Amar Yivler, Rabbi Lezer says you should swallow the truma since you began eating it beheter. Rabbi Yeshua Amar Yivler, Rabbi Yeshua says you must spit it out. According to Rabbi Lezer, if a person begins to eat truma beheter, he may swallow it even if he becomes puzzle or usher from eating truma while he's eating it. Apparently, Rabbi Lezer holds that whenever a person starts eating something beheter, he may continue eating it even after it becomes usher. Since this person is allowed to swallow the truma, he's in fact mechuyev to swallow it, because if he spits it out, it will be ruined, and someone else will eat it after it has been in his mouth, and it will be forbidden to waste or destroy truma. However, Rabbi Lezer is maida that if a kohen had truma in his mouth and then found out that his mother was a divorcee and he was a disqualified kohen, he may not swallow what was in his mouth, since he never had a heter to eat the truma at all. He was never allowed to eat the truma in the first place, and he had no right, and since he had no right to put in his mouth in the first place, so he has to spit it out. This is a case where he's not going to be able to swallow it. Tameh hayisa, a kohen was eating truma and was told you were tameh before you put the truma in your mouth. The tameh hayisa truma, or the truma became tameh before you put it in your mouth. Or even if Yisrael put food in his mouth, it became known that the food was tevel. Or ma'aser rishon where trumas ma'aser was not separated from. Ma'aser sheni v'hekdesh shelo nifter, ma'aser sheni, or food that was donated to hekdesh that had not been nifter, all of which are forbidden for anyone to eat. Oisha tam pishpish l'seich piv, or a kohen was eating truma and sensed the taste of over here they tied it a bed bug, but any kind of a creepy crawly thing. The Rav says it's a sheretz. It's very disgusting. Oh, the Rav actually says it's found in walls and in beds. And in Arabic it's called baki ubelaz tzimitza. And I don't know what that means exactly, but it's a bed bug which has an especially foul taste in his mouth and therefore does not want to swallow the truma. In all these cases, all the Tanoim agreed that Hareza Yivlait, he should spit out the food. Where the food was forbidden, he must spit it out because he was not allowed to put it in his mouth in the first place. And in that case, everyone agrees that he may not swallow it. When he tastes a bed bug, he may spit it out because a person is not obligated to eat truma that has a disgusting taste. Even though it's usually forbidden to waste truma, a kohen is not mechuyev to eat it if it disgusts him. The food doesn't actually contain a bed bug, for if it did, it would be forbidden to swallow it in any case due to the issur of eating shrotzim. It simply has a foul taste similar to that of a bed bug. But I always understood that to mean that, somehow the bug landed in his mouth while he was eating together with the truma. Okay, Mishnah Gimel. If someone was snacking from a cluster of grapes that Meiser wasn't taken from in a garden, and while he was eating, he went with the grapes from the garden into the chotzer, the courtyard. Rabbi Lezer Omer Yigmar, he may finish eating the cluster without taking off Meiser. Although the halacha is that once produce is brought into a chotzer, it may not be eaten until all the Meisers is taken off. He may continue eating these grapes because he started eating them outside the chotzer where it was permitted. Rabbi Yeshua says, Lo Yigmar, he may not finish eating the grapes once he brings them into the courtyard unless he takes Meiser off them. Even if he takes the grapes back outside the courtyard, he may not eat them at all because it's already mechuyev on Meiser. As in the cases discussed in the previous Mishnah, Rabbi Lezer holds that when a person starts eating something in a b'derech heter, he may finish it even if it becomes usher. Rabbi Yeshua holds he must stop eating it right then and there. Shabbos. Similarly, if someone was snacking from grapes that Meiser wasn't taken off on Friday, and then it became dark and Shabbos began, Rabbi Yeshua says Yigmar, he may finish the cluster without taking off Meiser, although produce that Meiser is not taken off of becomes forbidden to be eaten once Shabbos starts, this person may finish the cluster that he began eating permissibly. Rabbi Lezer Omer, Lo Yigmar, he may not finish eating the cluster until he takes off Meiser. However, he may not eat the grapes on Shabbos. He must save them until after Shabbos, since there's a mitzvah to eat on Shabbos. Whatever a person eats on Shabbos has special significance and cannot be considered a mere snack. Thus, it is always forbidden to eat produce which was not Meiser. So a person has another problem where he can't eat anything that wasn't Meiser on Shabbos. Because Shabbos is Kavel Meiser, and Afilu Achilas Arai Asura on Shabbos. That's what the Rav says. And he may not eat the grapes even after Shabbos. Okay? Mishnah Daled. Now here, the next four Mishnayos are going to discuss the Isser of Gilui. Certain liquids, wine and other liquids, if they were left uncovered or unguarded, there was concern that a snake or another venomous creature might have drunk from the liquid and left some of the poison in it. Now, many people think that the reason why some people are makbid nowadays is not to leave things left open overnight. It's not necessarily because we're afraid that a nachash might get in there, especially in a place where we don't have nachashim or poisonous creatures. The problem is that there's a ruach roa that shows around certain things, like food under a bed, or leaving a cup or a pitcher of water open overnight. If it's in the fridge, it's probably not a problem, although this is not halacha l'maisa. Just discussing the shilas. I always understood that everyone was makbid on this, but later on I realized that people are less makbid about certain things. For example, in camp, somebody was one time storing boxes of corn chips and potato chips under his bed that they were going to sell in the canteen. And I asked him about it, and he said he asked the Rav, and the Rav said that it was fine because it was in a box. If I'm not mistaken, the Gemara says that the Ruach Ra is Shayra, even if it is on things in the box, but I didn't want to make an asik, so we just let it go. So, Yain Shal Truma Shenisgale Yishafech. Now, where does this come from? Why does the sugya pop in over here? Because you're talking about if a person is eating truma and then he has to stop eating it, or a person stopped eating truma while he was eating it because it was, a bug landed in it or something like that. So, Yain Shal Truma Shenisgale Yishafech. Truma wine that became uncovered and was left unguarded must be spilled out because it's now forbidden to be drunk. It goes without saying the chulin wine that was left uncovered must be spilled out also. Even though it's usually usher to waste truma by spilling it out, this wine must be spilled out because it is forbidden, because it's dangerous. And the lashon of the Gemara is chamira sakanta me'isura. A sakana is more severe than an iser, because when we're dealing with something that's dangerous for a person's life, we have to go to any extreme to avoid that. 3 liquids become forbidden if they're left uncovered: hamayim, v'hayayin, v'hachalav, water, wine, and milk. But all other liquids are permitted even if they are left uncovered, because they're generally not drunk by venomous creatures. How long must liquids remain uncovered and unguarded in order to become forbidden? Long enough for a snake to come out from a nearby place and drink from the liquid and you wouldn't notice it. The Gemara Chulin on Davyur defines a nearby place as a hole beneath the container's handle. Liquid becomes forbidden if left uncovered and unguarded for long enough that a snake hiding in a hole beneath the container's handle can come out of its hiding place, drink from the liquid, and return to its hole. If the liquid was left unguarded for less than this amount of time, it's permitted because any snake that came would have been seen. Okay, Mishnah Hey. Shir Hamayim Hamagulim, uncovered water is forbidden up to the amount that poison would be lost in it. That is, if there's enough water that venom from a snake would be so diluted that it couldn't cause harm, the water would then be mutter. Although the Mishnah doesn't specify what this amount is, it was the amount that was known to the Chachamim, who knew how much poison a snake would leave in water when it drank, and accordingly how much water was needed to dilute the venom. This halacha applies to wine and milk as well. The Gemara Sukkah goes through the sugya a little bit, and the Gemara says that there are certain liquids, or maybe certain types of snakes, that if the snake would inject poison into the liquid, the venom would float to the top, or it would foam at the top, so you could tell that something was going on with it. Maybe people know about this, maybe people don't, but again, chamira sakanta me'isura, and we have to go to any length, to any extent, to make sure that we don't run into any sort of sakana anywhere along the way. Rabbi Yossi Omer, b'kelim kol shehin, if water is in a container of any size, it's forbidden if it's left uncovered, no matter how much water there is. But when water is left uncovered in a pit in the ground, 40 saw or more is mutter. Rabbi Yossi's opinion, the poison of a snake is dangerous even in large amounts of water. If, however, the water is in the ground, the coolness of the earth helps weaken the venom's effect. In that case, if there is 40 saw, get diluted enough that the eres, the poison misbattle lehem, will become bottle in it, and the water is safe to drink. Mishnah Vav. Nikure te'enim, punctured figs. If figs have a hole in it, which might have came from a snake bite in the skin, va'anavim v'kishum v'delum v'avtichim avamalafafainais, as well as grapes, cucumbers, gourds, melons, or Kirby cucumbers that were punctured, they were all forbidden to be eaten out of concern that a snake left venom in the fruit. Afiluhin kikar, it's true even if the fruits are so large that they weigh a kikar, which is a very large measure. Echad gadol v'echad katan, whether the hole is big or small. Echad talish v'echad mechuber, whether the fruit is detached from the ground or attached to the ground. Kol sheyesh b'leicha aser Any fruit that has moisture is forbidden to be eaten if it was punctured because the poison may have gotten mixed in with the moisture and spread throughout the whole fruit. Even if the hole is on one side of the fruit, the whole fruit is forbidden because the venom might have gotten mixed with the moisture and spread throughout the fruit. However, if a fruit is dried out and has no moisture, a person may cut off the area where the hole is and eat the rest because the poison cannot spread without moisture. Unashuchas hanachash asura, similarly, an animal that was bitten by a snake is also to be eaten even after it was shechted, because eating it is a life-threatening danger since the snake's venom may have spread through the entire animal. Even though the animal didn't die from the snake bite and was geshachten kahalacha, had it died from a snake bite, it would have been also to eat in any case because it's unavailable. But even if it was geshachten kahalachasa, it's a problem because the poison was spread throughout the body. If wine was left uncovered but then poured the wine through a strainer, it's still forbidden based on the isser of giloy because the strainer doesn't filter out the venom that may be in the wine. Rabbi Nechemia permits drinking such wine because in his opinion a strainer does filter out the venom and the wine is no longer dangerous. Mishnah Ches. The Mishnah returns to the sugya of truma. A person is required to make sure that his truma doesn't become tameh. It's Ramah Pasuk. The Mishnah discusses how to deal with truma that may have already become tameh but might still be tahar. So chavesh shel truma shenel basafik tuma. If there's a barrel of truma that may have become tameh, Rabbi Lezer Eimer Amahayim Menachas Makom Torpa. If the barrel was placed in an unprotected place where it can easily be touched by something tameh, yanichena b'makom hamutzna, the owner must place it in a protected place. And if the barrel was uncovered and the food inside can easily become tameh, he must cover it over. Since it's possible that the barrel is still tahar, he's still mechuyev to take measures to make sure that it won't become tameh. Rabbi Yeshua says, if the barrel was placed in a protected place where it was not likely to become tameh, he may place it in an unprotected place because once it becomes tameh, there is no, it will make it vaday now. A person is not mechuyev to protect this truma from becoming tameh. However, he may not make it tameh directly, but he may allow it to become tameh on its own by leaving it unprotected. In fact, he's required to do so. Right now, this barrel may not be eaten and may not be destroyed. If the owner leaves it in its current state, there's a chashash that someone might eat from it. Therefore, he should leave the barrel in a spot where it's likely to become tameh, which then he can get rid of it. Rabbi Gamliel says, Al Yechadish Badavar, he shouldn't do anything to it. If it was unprotected, he doesn't have to move it to a protected place. But if it was in a protected area, he may not move it to an unprotected place. Because Rabbi Gamliel holds like Rabbi Yeshua that a person doesn't have to guard truma that might be tameh. However, he also holds, unlike Rabbi Yeshua, that he may not cause it to become tameh. Therefore, the barrel should simply be left where it is. Sheva al tasa adif, and don't do anything to it, don't touch it, don't move it, leave it alone. Mishnah Tes. The Mishnah discusses another case that involves keeping truma from becoming tameh. This case deals with a wine press which consists of two vats, a higher one and a lower one. Grapes were pressed in the upper vat and the juice flowed down to the lower vat. The Mishnah discusses a case where wine is flowing from the upper vat will become tameh if it enters the lower vat. A barrel of truma wine broke in the upper vat of a wine press, and the wine is flowing out of the barrel towards the lower vat. And the lower vat, there is chulin wine that's tameh. If the truma wine enters the lower vat, it will touch the tameh wine and become tameh. In addition, the chulin wine of the lower vat will become also to be drunk because it's mixed with truma tmeya. The people standing by have only containers that are tameh. If they go to get tahar containers to scoop up the wine, by the time they get back, it will already be tameh. Since the truma will become tameh anyways, they can't do anything to stop it from becoming tameh. They may scoop it up with tameh containers, even though doing it will make the truma tameh, so that it doesn't prohibit the wine in the lower vat. So Moed Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yeshua she'im yechelim lahatzil mimenu revius betara yatzil. Both Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua agree that if by going to get tahar containers, people will be able to save at least a quarter of a leg of truma wine in a state of tahara, they must get tahar containers and save what they can. But if not, Rabbi Lezer and retired v'tetameh v'al yitamena biyadav. But if not, that is, even if by the time they get tahar containers, not even a quarter leg will remain tahar, Rabbi Lezer says one should let the wine go down to the lower vat and become tameh from the wine that's there. One may not make the truma tameh with his own hands by collecting it in a tameh container. Even though the truma wine will become tameh either way, it's forbidden to make it tameh directly. Therefore, they must let it flow into the lower vat, even though now both the truma and the chulin are going to be also. Mishnah Yud. In a similar case, a barrel of truma oil spilled on the ground. A person is standing nearby with a tummy container. If he goes to get a container to scoop up the oil, some oil will seep into the ground and be lost by the time he returns. Since the oil will be lost in any event, may he collect it with the tummy container and thereby make the oil tummy in order to save it? So Meider Belezer Bishua agrees, Shim Yochel Lahatzal in matter of Yis Betara, that if I'm going to get a tar container, he will be able to save a quarter leg of the truma oil. In a state of Tara Yatzil, he must get a tar container and save what he can, even though some oil will be lost by the time he returns to Lav. But if not, that is, even by the time he gets a tar container, not even a quarter leg will remain. Rabbi Lezer says he should let the oil go down and be absorbed in the ground, but he may not ruin it with his own hands. He may not directly make a tameh by collecting with a tameh container. Even though the oil will all be lost, it's usher to save it by making a tameh. Here too, Rabbi Shua will disagree, as we shall see in the next Mishnah. Mishnah Yud Aleph. V'alzu. In the previous two Mishnahs, Rabbi Lezer paskin that a person may not make truma tameh with his own hands, even if it will become tameh in any event or be lost on its own. The Mishnah cites Rabbi Shua's opinion about these cases. Right? It was only Rabbi Lezer mentioned in the past two Mishnahs. V'alzu. Concerning this case and that case, the case of Mishnah Ches, where truma may have already become tameh, and the case of Mishnah Tes and Yod, where truma was unavoidably going to become tameh or be lost, this is not the kind of truma that I'm forbidden to make tameh. The isser to make truma tameh applies elam la'achla, only to truma that's currently fit to be eaten and will become disqualified from eating it if it becomes tameh. If the truma cannot be eaten anyways, a person is not allowed to make a tameh. Therefore, where truma might already be tameh, like in Mishnah Ches, a person may allow it to become tameh. Where truma is on the way to certainly becoming tameh or lost, as a Mishnah Tes and Yod, a person may collect it with a tameh container in order to save what he can, and obviously he'll have to get rid of it right away, like we spoke. The person nobody should be nichshel with it to eat the truma tameh. About the tameh ketza, and what is the case where it's forbidden to make truma tameh? Someone was traveling from place to place. The kicker shall truma biyadai, and he had loaves of truma bread in his hand. A guy said to him, "Tein achas me'en v'atama, give me one of those loaves and I'll make it tameh." If you don't give it to me, I'll make all of them tameh. The yid shall let the guy make all the loaves tameh, but the yid may not give the guy one of the loaves to make it tameh. Although if the yid does nothing, all the bread will become tameh. The yid may not perform any action that will cause the truma to become tameh. Shev al tasem. Rabbi Shua says, Rabbi Shua says that the yid should put one loaf on a rock in front of the guy and let him take it on his own. The yid may not hand it directly to the guy, and he may not let the guy make all the loaves tameh. In this situation, the person is forbidden to cause truma to become tameh, and thus he must do all he can to save the truma. In this case, Rabbi Shua agrees that one may not make the truma tameh, because here, unlike in the previous three Mishnahs, it's not vadai that the truma will not be able to be eaten. Although the guy threatened to make it tameh, he may change his mind and not do anything. Since it's possible that the truma will still be tahor and not become tameh, the chiyuv to protect it from tumah applies. Rabbi Shua simply disagrees with Rabbi Lezer how it must be protected. Rabbi Lezer holds that one may not do anything that will cause it to become tameh. Rabbi Shua holds that a person may not hand the loaf over directly, but must allow the guy to take one loaf in order to save the rest. Mishnah Yud Beis, a similar halacha. In a similar case, there's a group of women, and the guy said to them, "Tnu achas became an atama. Give us one of you, and we will violate her from lav. If you don't give us one woman, we'll violate all of you. We shall let the goyim violate all of them. And we may not hand over a single Jewish soul to the goyim. We may not sacrifice one person to save someone else." Although Rabbi Shua taught in the previous Mishnah that a person should allow a single loaf of truma to become tameh in order to save other loaves from becoming tameh, the halacha is not the same when it comes to saving people. No individual Jew is more valuable than another, and it's not permitted to sacrifice a person to save others. Like the Gemara says, that how do you know that klape shemayim, this person's blood is redder, meaning more chashav sumik is red? So my chazi the dam lidach sumik tvei. How do you know that this person's blood is redder? Maybe the other person's more chashav, so you can't do anything, and it's really more b'sheva al taisa, but yitamo is kulam. The same applies if goyim threaten to kill a whole group unless they give over one person to be killed. they must all allow themselves to be killed rather than hand over one person. Now, B'Shas Hashmad, there were many stories where people did give up their lives. B'Shas Hashmad is different. In the history of Klal Yisrael, there were many Yidden that were Ma'aseh Nefesh. I mean, we know from the stories from the Gemara down to, unfortunately, this Man Hazeh, even very, very recently, the last couple of months. And just a tefillah that for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael, and Asunim Batzar Vashivi Ha'im Zim Brain Vayom Vayim Vayibosh Hamokim Mirachem Aleim Shem Shav Rachmanis on all of us. Yitzim Yitzhar Levachem Efeil Le'Yodem Yishibud L'Gula Ashtabah Gulav Izman Kuriv and Amen.